But I start tonight with two quite different authors who have found themselves in that realm and got there through a different way from each other. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Katrina McKelvey. Come and sit, Katrina. So when I first started as director of the Writers' Centre, we were at the lockup and we were wanting to establish a children's writers, a group for people who are interested in writing books and stories for children. And we had a lady who started the group going and then just sort of disappeared, and Katrina was there and she said, oh, I'll run it. And here we are 5 years later, and what a story. And in a funny sort of way, I'm just catching up with Katrina. We have a lot of email communication, but we're so busy, both of us, that this is going to be a catch-up for me as much as you learning where Katrina's path has taken her. Hi.
Hi. Is that better?
That's great. So, Katrina, the early days when the group started, which is now completely full, and we've had to set up a second group for writers of children's stories and books. What about the early days and how you got into it?
Well, the early days were interesting because I'd actually contacted the Hana Writers' Centre because I decided to start writing for children. I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into. And Karen had actually said there was no group and we were starting a waiting list. And it wasn't long after that, actually, that you rang me and said, oh, actually, we've got someone who wants to run the group. I think we've got enough. And there was about 5 of us, maybe. And, so I went along we were meeting monthly in the lockup, and it was such a beautiful space. And from that group, there's still 2 of us, original members, that are together. The rest have moved on. And we were meeting monthly, and we were very raw at how to critique and what we were looking for, and some of us have gone on from there since and being published. So it's a very successful little group, and as you said, our group started very small, and people came and went. And something about January, people make New Year's resolutions, and people go, oh, I'm going to start writing this year, I'm going to do it. And so January, you got this influx of new people, and they'd come and go, and by the middle of the year, you're back down to almost your original group again. And but over the years, we've slowly built this core group of people, and along the way, you build trust with each other. And 5 years later, I actually had to contact Karen. It was earlier this year, I think, and said, Karen, I have to shut the group. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if any other writing groups are actually shut at the moment.
Yes, the poetry group, and we've had to set up more of those.
Yeah, so it's a complete success story, I think, also for the Hana Writers' Centre, and also the fact that they don't want to leave our group, like they're staying.
And a real thing for you, because you run this, you lead this group once a month.
And I'm probably the most experienced in the group as far as submitting and getting rejected and getting feedback from publishers, and so I go to everything I can get to between Sydney, Brisbane, so I bring a wealth of learning back into the group, and because a lot of people either have other commitments, they can't leave Newcastle and go and attend these things, or can't afford to do it, so I feel like I'm a vehicle for education, and so I can just grab everything I can and come back and share.
And I think the story that we're going to hear about Katrina's pathway applies to any authorship, any sort of genre that you write for, any form you write in. So, tell us about this. You're into everything in relation to this form of writing.
I started to write for children in 2011, and that border's just shut. And publishers panicked and shut their doors, and I was also trying to write in rhyme, and so I was trying to break a few rules, and it was almost impossible for new authors and unknown authors to get published at that time, and so you had to be really stubborn to make it, and I decided I was going to be stubborn and make it, and dug my heels in and just I thought networking is the only way.
So what does stubborn and digging your heels in
mean? Stubborn means keep submitting and submitting and submitting, and slowly building a thicker skin from each rejection, and treating each rejection as a badge of honour, like, okay, at least I had the courage to submit something, and think, all right, but makes me ask questions, well, what's wrong with it? Because back then, though, we were actually getting feedback from publishers in the children's industry as to what was wrong with it. They might say, yeah, we love this, but you need to work on this. Well, you don't get that now. You just get either nothing or you get just a blanket rejection letter.
So why do you think you were getting feedback then?
They had time back then. They had time. They don't have time now. Budgets are being cut, and so a lot of publishers don't have time to give feedback, and they get so many submissions that they just can't keep.
But they've always had so many submissions, haven't they?
I feel in our industry now there are more people who are trying to submit, because I feel there are more educational opportunities out there, and people taking advantage of going to courses, and also publishers are out and about more. Back then they were just hidden inside these buildings and you didn't get to meet them. Over the years they've slowly come out and they're going to conferences, and you can have one-on-one meetings with them, and you're getting manuscript feedback, and they're speaking on panels and they're talking about the submission process, and so I think people are getting more encouragement to submit, and also to people track who's open and who's closed for unsolicited manuscripts, and so people are taking advantage of that knowledge and are sending manuscripts everywhere, and so and you're building a network of friends too, and so you're encouraging each other to do it. 5 years ago I didn't know a single person. I feel now I'm in like a generation of new authors, and we're sort of moving through this whole industry together, and we've all sort of stuck by each other between Sydney and here mainly. And I've got friends also now in Brisbane. But that's just from going to conferences and meeting people, and we connected on social media. And there's more information out there as well because of social media. And so, yeah, you've got a lot of encouragement out there now, where 5 years ago I felt that you were on your own. And so writing groups help feel like you're not on your own.
So tell us the title of the book that first was accepted for
Okay,
publishing.
so my first picture book was Dandelions. I bought a copy to show you, and I've left it in my bag. I've put bookmarks on the tables if you want to have a look at it. It's a picture book. So I started writing for children in picture book format. It's the absolute hardest format to write in, because you have a very, very limited word count. Usually 500 words or less, and in fact some publishers like it.
We're very experienced at 500 words or less.
Oh yeah, but it's not a short story format. It's a completely different format to short story, because you've got to let the illustrations tell half the story or another story on top of your story. So I can't describe anything in those 500 words because the illustrator does that through the illustrations. I don't even need to describe a lot of action because it's done through the movement of the characters on the pages.
And you learnt a lot of this through trial and error?
Oh, mistakes, through going to courses, through having manuscripts critiqued, through just rejection after rejection, and just writing and rewriting and rewriting. It's actually quite hard. And I've lost track of what I was talking about. Oh yeah, so also it's so expensive to produce a picture book because of the colours and the size of the paper. And so I went in the absolute deep end of the children's book industry.
Of being picture books?
Yeah, being picture books instead of being junior fiction or your middle grade, your chapter books, because they're on cheaper paper and most of the books are coloured. They may only have a coloured cover. And this book wasn't accepted quickly. In fact, I started writing it in 2012 and it wasn't really noticed until 2014. I'd spent 2013 submitting and I got rejected. And then at the end of 2013, so I shelved it, started on my computer, got dusty inside the computer.
I was going to say, why would you stick with the same book?
Because you believe in it. You absolutely believe that your story needs to be told. And so 2013 a writing competition appeared that matched with a theme that was yellow. And I thought, Dandelions in yellow, I'll stick it in. And it was an online competition, no prizes involved, where your story was published online, which was the kids' book review website. We call it KBR. And I knew a few people also behind that website, but that's not why I submitted it. And found out afterwards that they loved it and it was published on the website. And then while that was happening, the judge was a publisher and I didn't know that, and she was starting a new imprint in Exile Publishing, which is out of Wollongong. And their imprint's called EK Books, and EK stands for Exile Kids. And she contacted me and she said, "Oh, I'm looking for picture books to publish. I really like your story." And I went, "Oh, great. Like, you know, what do you think of it?" She goes, "Oh, yeah, it needs a rewrite." And I went, "Oh, okay, what's wrong with it?" And she told me that she didn't like how the story had a section in it where the child had to wait. So in this story, Dad has the mower out and he mows the lawn, as dads do, mums do it as well. But she knew all the dandelion flowers around the yard, and she knew they were going to turn into the puffballs because she loved blowing them. And he mowed them flat and absolutely broke her heart in the first sentence of the story, because I have to do that in the first sentence because I've got no room in words to have a nice slow introduction. And then she was going to wait for them to grow back. Mm-hmm. And the publisher said, "No, the readership won't wait. They're young children. Dad and the girl has to fix the problem immediately." So lucky Dad hadn't moved the front. And so they found two more puffballs. They found two puffballs at the side of the house. And then went on this beautiful imaginative journey together, wondering where they do go when you blow them. And as a part of that, she learns about the whole life cycle of the dandelion plant. And it's all about parents asking for forgiveness and rebonding together, stopping their busy lives and spending some time with your children. And what parents think are insignificant, such as a weed in the garden, is actually really special to a child, and getting to know them and what's special to them. And it doesn't matter that it's not special to you, it's about you coming down to their level. And so she said, "Righto, then do a little rewrite and resubmit it." So I did that. I took that waiting time out, resubmitted it, and she absolutely loved it. And that was in 2014 I signed that contract. And of course with picture books then you need another 12 months to get it illustrated and the book designed and all that sort of stuff. So it came out in 2015. So I started writing it in 2012 and I didn't have it in my hands until 2015. And it's just gone into reprint, so I'm very excited.
Well done. And so tell us about, did you at any point with the signing of the contract, I'm sure that would be a big question people have, is how did you know what you were getting yourself in for and committing to?
Well, I did, and my husband's a lawyer, so that helped. So I said, "Here's the contract, what does it mean?" Because if you're looking through the Hunter Writers Room and looking through New South Wales Writers Centre, you see these little courses pop by about, how to understand the contract and all those types of things, and you think, "Oh, I don't have to worry about that." Then when you get the contract, you can't find one of those courses. They're not available at that time. So, you be contacted with places like the Australian Society of Authors, and they can give you legal advice on whether your whether your contract is good or not, because there are bad contracts out there. You have to be very, very careful. Lots of articles out there as well to guide people as to what to look for in a contract. And my contract did not have a lot of money in it, but then most don't. So you've got to know going in that you're not going to make a lot of money. You just need to make sure that everything's legal and they're not going to back down at their end, and I'm not going to back down at my end. And you're all looking after each other. There's publicity there, there's distribution and marketing there, and you get out of it what you can. This is a boutique publishing company, so they're going to offer a different contract to one of the major publishing companies because they don't have the money or the resources. But I was
and reprint, obviously tells us that it's not gathering dust on shelves.
No, it's not. And we're lucky. Our publisher has distribution in 4 countries, and so it does get sold overseas. In fact, more copies were sold in America than here. Obviously, a bigger audience. And
what about in the UK, where the dandelion is?
Well, actually,
it's a UK plant, isn't it?
It's a worldwide plant.
Yeah, sure.
It is, and that's the thing about EK books, and probably a lot of books publishing companies that do sell internationally. That you do have a real universal theme. Some of them love Australian themes, but some of them want something very universal, and the dandelion plant is.
We actually will be interviewing an author in the coming months who writes with an Australian theme and is very popular as a result of that in Germany.
Yeah, it's funny.
So, yeah.
It's interesting. They either like it or don't. And And in the UK in 2015, Dandelions, which is from a freshly published author and illustrator, actually got named in the top 10 picture books that I think it was The Guardian recommended that year for Christmas. So the UK loved it. So that was very exciting. It was very well accepted up there. So, and I'm currently I've just signed a second contract and talking about universal themes.
With the second book.
Second book, same publisher. It's a Billy Cart story. And as publishers do, they love the story, accepted it, started Googling Billy Cart in the countries that they distribute to, and we are the only country that uses the term Billy Cart. But I hadn't actually used that phrase in the manuscript, but the whole concept of the book is about a Billy Cart. And we worked out in New Zealand, they call them trolleys, and in America they call them soap boxes. So we had to be very, very careful at the early stages of setting up an illustrator that I didn't mention the term Billy Cart, and that the term isn't also in a poster in the illustrations, because there's a poster advertising a Billy Cart race. And so we've just called it the race, I think. So, so that's good. And the main character's called Billy, after the Billy Cart. So, the rest of the world won't get that, but I'm hoping the Australian kids will get that Billy's named after a Billy Cart. So you've got to be so careful.
So is the book sold all over Australia?
This is distributed through HarperCollins. So it depends though. I don't know if you know this. Booksellers can buy in whatever they want, and a lot of these books are hand sold by reps into the bookshops. And so you've got to have a really good rep that loves your book to say you must have this book on your shelves. But it can be ordered through any bookshop, online. It's available everywhere.
Great. I think I might throw the questions over to everyone here, because I'm sure you have some other questions. Anyone have a question they'd like to ask?
I've got a question. Did you mention how the illustrator was chosen?
How the illustrator was chosen.
Funny, actually, our story is very unique. Generally, publishers pick the illustrator. What they do is they have a bank of illustrators, and they try to marry the style of the illustration to the style of the story. So my story was very whimsical and very soft and flowing, so they wanted an illustrator to make sure the lines and the illustrations did exactly the same thing in the colours as well. In this situation, my friend Kirley, who ended up illustrating the book, that stubborn thing I talked to you about? Well, we both had that, and we were going to go in to publishers and say, we both write and illustrate, and we do a book together. Yes, and that's an absolute no. One, because publishers want complete control of that process, and two, we're both new. No one knew who we were, and often they all link a new author with an established illustrator and uses the illustrator followers to sort of get the author known, or the other way around. And so there was no way, especially big companies would take us on. However, I had asked Kirley to do one drawing for me that I could send around when I was submitting in 2012. So when Anushka, my publisher, decided to take on this manuscript, she said to me, have you got anyone, would you like to suggest an illustration style that you think matches your story? So I flicked her the picture Kirley drew, not saying I wanted Kirley to draw it, because I wasn't allowed to say that. I said, this style looks really good, and this was by Kirley. And in the meantime, Kirley was sending her illustration portfolio to her. So we strategically timed that, and she put it all together, and that's how it worked. But generally...
But that is uncommon.
It is uncommon unless you're Jackie French or someone like that, or you've got a great relationship with two people together, like you've got Libby Gleeson and Freya Blackwood do lots of books together. Jackie French and Bruce Watley, they're a really good team. Glenda Miller, Stephen Michael King, they're another great duo. So if there's an established pair there that publishers are making lots of money off, they'll keep them together for some books. Otherwise, publisher picks.
What would be the illustrator's cut?
Good question. All right, so I get a percentage of sales after all the costs have been covered, and we have to halve that. So what I make, the illustrator gets exactly the same in a picture book. As the pictures become less and less as the age goes up, and junior fiction, the illustrator might only get a commission, or they'll get a smaller percentage.
I found with book covers, the illustrator, the cover gets a pretty good cut. So I ended up doing my own illustration.
Can we
we have the door closed?
Yep. Some publishing companies should be very, very careful with picture books in particular, being an author and being the author and the illustrator, and submitting both at the same time. Because if you're really good at writing but you're really terrible at drawing, they might reject the story at the same time because they might not think you would like someone else to draw your story, or the other way around, they might love your drawing and think your story is terrible, and they'll reject you on both. So, dislike both.
So, for authors here who are poets and short story writers, and we've got some non-fiction, fact book writers, what are some of the kind of top few things about publishing that, regardless of what you write, what form you write in, that you would advise?
Okay, read in the genre you want to write in, read out of it, read the genres you don't like so you know why you don't like them, and then it makes it very clear as to what you do like. So reading's huge. In fact, I do a lot of teaching to children. I go and do school visits, and I say to them, you actually have to read more than you write, even as a writer. Spend more time reading. So reading's a big thing. Rewrite is another thing. First draft, rubbish. Usually I call the first draft, you just vomit into the computer. And then you've got to take out all the excess stuff that you don't need, all your filler words, all those types of things, get them out of there. Then you have to really look at learning about your craft, practice your craft, because every craft has a different set of scaffolding that you can use in that style. Writing for children is very different to writing non-fiction and writing, your short stories and stuff. So get to know your craft, practice. 90% of your stories will never get off your computer, no one will ever read them. That's absolutely fine, just practice. Another thing, daily writing is important, even if it's just keeping a diary of just get everything out of your head so you can clear your head for your writing for the day. It's another one. And also, be brave and submit once you have really got a beautiful polished manuscript. Make sure there are no spelling mistakes. Make sure you have followed your publisher's guidelines. You must look them up on the website. Every publisher is different, so if you're doing multiple submissions, you've got to make sure that, if one wants 12-point Times New Roman and one doesn't, well, you've got to keep changing that manuscript and make sure you follow those guidelines. And if you get a rejection, it's not the end of the world. That means there's something wrong with it. In fact, I like to say that if my book's rejected, I'm glad they didn't publish it because there's something wrong with it. And I'd be more embarrassed having a book on the shelf that's rubbish and gathering dust than getting a rejection letter. So, so just keep moving.
And do you need to do a lot of promotion of your book yourself?
You can do what you want, but I think you get back what you put in. So if I didn't do as much promotion as I did when the book first came out, we wouldn't have gone into reprint, that's for sure. Also, you're building a brand.
Yes.
Like, as an author, you are now a brand, and that's why I don't use a pen name. My name is my brand, and my name is in my email address. It's in my website address. That's my brand now. And so you're not just promoting your book, you're promoting your brand, and you're also showing your publisher that you're out and about, and you're active and you're professional, and you're representing them as well, and you're out promoting them as well. So when another publisher wants to, consider taking you on, well, they'll Google you and they will see what you're doing. Have you been on other people's blogs? Have you been interviewed about your book? Are you doing school visits for us in particular? Doing children's literature? Are you visiting bookshops? What are you doing to help them? Because their budgets, in particular in promotion, is getting smaller and smaller. So you have to help. And in fact, you have to invest money in your own promotion. So even though you've got the book contract, you will still have to invest money in yourself and your brand to help promote your book, because they may not have any money to help you promote. I haven't got a cent from my publisher to help with costs for promotion on my part. I didn't get any money for a book launch. I didn't get an advance. But they also they got me radio interviews. I got interviewed for blogs, but I also chased other people to interview me on their blogs. So between us, we sort of worked together and did it that way.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, Katrina's got to go soon. Are there any other questions at all that people might have? One last question about
any question, anything. So it can be simple.
Would you say the publishers, particularly of little short books,
No.
So does a publisher look for particular themes when they're looking at submissions?
No. First of all, it's got to be a really good story. That's the absolute first thing. Is the story? Is it a really good story? Secondly, have they published something similar before? Is it something different to the books that they've already published? Also, will they make money off that story? Is another very important business decision for them to make. And they don't like to look for themes because they don't know what will and won't work. It's a guessing game. They don't like, and also too, because it takes, sometimes up to 2 years for these books to come out. If they're trying to guess the theme in 2 years' time, they're going to get it wrong. So, most of the time they're going to get it wrong. So no, and also too, it's so subjective. It's what they like and what they don't like. They might hate dandelions and weeds and hate gardening, so they might reject me just because they don't like gardening. It's nothing to do with the story. So no, they don't generally. However, I've been heavily involved in the Children's Book Council of Australia, and we have a book week awards every year. And last year in the picture book section, there was a really strong theme of war, and I think it had something to do with the anniversary last year. This year, the theme is grief. So if I go and write a book about grief now, and it comes out in 2 years' time, it's missed the boat. So you don't want to write about what currently is out there. You want to try and do something really different.
So are those themes accidental?
I think they are, yeah, because there's 120 or so books entered into this particular category. In the top 4 of them have something to do with grief. And that wasn't part of the criteria, so I think it's a fluke, but it's just an interesting pattern to observe. Another thing that I find coming through children's picture books at the moment is mental wellness. So there's lots of books out there about helping children deal with anxiety and worrying and mental wellness. So that's a thing that's sort of out there.
So maybe those books were in the stockpile of the publishers, they just sort of pushed forward based on perhaps sales and...
Maybe, I think it's a fluke. I think it's a fluke.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's just what resonates with the publisher at that time, what's different to what they've already got on their list, what do they like, because they've got to be behind you 100% because they're going to be with your book and helping design your book and promote your book for a very long time, and so they just have to like it.
Yeah. Well, I think what's so great about this story of meeting Katrina is that she did plunge into one of the hardest areas and was successful. So I think there's hope for everybody. Yeah. Thanks, Katrina.
Oh, and I've got books for sale if you want.